Hi, guys, welcome back. This is episode 3 of The Revenue Plunge. I'm Jessica, your co host with Tom.
Hello. Nice to see you again. Today we're going to talk about conferences and large networking events as a conversion strategy, right? To monetize for your business. And I think this is a topic that definitely um, an episode can cover entirely on its own, right? Because it is such a big topic. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm
Yeah.
super happy that we're doing this because ever since we decided that we were going to relay this message to our audience, I was like, okay, I'm paying attention to what we're doing because very often, to be honest, when you have done things for such a long time, there are things that you don't pay attention anymore. But the reality is that we did a conference and we worked at a conference this weekend and we came back with 93 leads and Tom lost his voice.
I did. And I'm like just getting it back, but you can probably still hear that I'm talking a little bit like a seal squealing while on its way to death right now. So it's kind of coming back. So just bear with me.
Oh, so you see, I have permission to speak a little bit more today.
Yep, she'll be doing the lion's share. So you're saved for now.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah. Yeah, so effectively, last Saturday we did work for a client and honestly, it's one of those things that we don't have to, right? We don't have to as a marketing agency. It's very rare when your marketing team actually will say, oh yeah, let's actually go ahead and then, work at the table, right? Work at the booth. However, because we do growth marketing, one of the things that are very, very important and very different from just plain marketing or organic marketing or online marketing, growth marketing means that we get to identify where the needle will be moved and then we pivot towards that. So when we work with clients, we create a strategy and we knew ahead of time that we have been working towards going to this particular event as a team. And then Tom, for instance, as we talked before, he has experience in sales and actually wasn't working at booth part of your job.
Yeah, it was a big part of the job. Used to go around to conferences all the time across the country, many of, and you work the booth, you work the floor. That's just how it is. And I think a few different things to keep in mind is that there's a big difference between a B2B, right? So a business to business conference and a B2C, a business to consumer conference, right? This one that we worked out in particular was mostly B2C, so to sell products directly to consumers. So it's going to be very different, right? Because if you're selling to businesses, you know, the tenor of the conference, it's certainly going to be a bit more suit and tie. The budgets are going to be higher as well, and it's more of a consultative approach. You're not looking to actually do deals or make sales on the floor there in real time. Can it happen? Sure, it's very, very rare, right? So it's really more about lead aggregation. So setting things up to collect as many leads as possible. Whereas on the B2C side, you actually can, sell memberships, sell products, sell services, have your device out and sell it on the spot because people say, "Ooh, look at this shiny object," right? And then go and buy it. So because of the differences, your attack strategy to both these different types of conferences is going to be very different.
This is so awesome.
Yeah.
This is so awesome because I'm sure that wellness business owners that are watching this, some of you guys have sent out your team, and probably your team came back with new contacts, but probably they didn't come back with necessarily like qualified leads or sales, right? Like, wouldn't it be amazing if you had your team going to an event where you already know that there's a good chance that they can do sales, but then you're not sure if they are equipped to do the sale. And this is one of the areas where, again, we love immersing ourselves into the full process, because there's a difference between the marketing and then the sales. We talk about this, right? I feel it was like episode 1 or 2
Yeah.
where we talk about sales qualified lead and then marketing qualified lead. But when you get to see, for me, fascinating as a marketer, when I get to see that I get to have a conversation with somebody from out and goes from going from awareness to conversion as it happened, like I saw the member. It was quite interesting to see the full flow, which now we have data and facts to go back to refine our marketing strategy. Had it not been for our exposure, then everything else is just based on word of mouth and reference. And quite frankly, very often we find that sending the team out, you're not necessarily going to get the same kind of feedback. And if you really want to know what is kind of like causing the friction of your message, throwing yourself to that conference is going to be one of my best and top recommended activities, because you're able to have those conversations directly with your future buyers. So can we unpack like what is needed in order to achieve that level of success from conference marketing?
Yeah, so I think number one is that you have to have a lead magnet uh, when you set up. Okay, so actually let's start off even further back. So whenever you work a conference as a business, there's a big question that you always get from people. Can I just go to the conference? Do I necessarily need a booth? Or do I necessarily need a table or a way to showcase my business? And the short answer is no, you absolutely need a booth or a table. And the reason is because conference attendees are not going to a conference to be sold to or to be marketed to. So you need to create a lead magnet. It's really hard to go as an individual business and try to start networking and selling your service to other people. Um, Having a booth or having some way to showcase your business is going to give you the authority. It gives you a presence of being like official. And then if you and then what you want to do is create a lead magnet, right? So a reason for them to stop by your table. That could be swag. Okay, so bags, hand sanitizer, toys, fun things, free samples of whatever in exchange for getting their information. And this works. People love getting free things, even if they're silly. Lots of times they want to give it to their kids. They want to give it to their significant other. They might need a few extra pens for the plane, right? Or a backup charger for their iPhone or whatever. So people are always willing to get free stuff and give you their information. But it also that lead magnet gives you, the business, the opportunity then to ask questions to qualify them as a prospect because they're at your booth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that I think is by far the most important. Outside of a lead magnet, what else do you think you need from a standpoint of presence at a booth?
Yeah, I will take a further step into that lead magnet, because they might think, oh yeah, a sign up sheet will get them into your newsletter. Please don't do that. Okay. You always need to consider the following. The user will be asking, what's in there for me? Right. And especially if you are going to go to an event where there are going to be other set of vendors, you need to put yourself in the shoes of that user. Do you want to be basically another more, or do you want to be the one that they remember the most? And you can achieve that when you consider the experience that you want to create and the memories that you want them to have about themselves interacting with your business. So if you have, ideally, if you have a piece of technology, if you're in the wellness tech world, if you have a piece that is kind of like can be experienced with senses, I am a big fan of that, because you will create, in addition to that particular, like, oh yeah, that was great, but can you create an experience? Can you trigger a memory? That usually for me, Tom, create a big impact. And when I have gone with this, like we call them sometimes like activations, sometimes our booth actually has the most people, because
Yep.
they want to feel that. And then
Yeah. I actually was at a conference one time in the tech world where it was selling to a very analytical engineering crowd. So let's just say that the offerings were the furthest thing from sexy. But while probably out of the 10 or 12 vendors that were there and had booths, um, one of them stood out like a sore thumb in a good way. And what they did was each of the people working the booth wore superhero costumes. I think one was Superman, one was Wonder Woman, and there, there may have been one more. And then what they were doing was they were giving away Monopoly games. So, and it was the name of their company, Opoly, right? So you know that you can make customized Monopoly games and put the name of your company, right? So if we created it for our company, it would be Impact Line Digital Opoly, and we'd have our logo, and it's just like a basic Monopoly game, and then maybe some of the cards and some of the figurines and some of the areas on the boardwalk where you buy homes
that's so
and all of
cool.
that would be customized to our lingo. Yeah, and it actually isn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be. You buy it in bulk, and the price per unit comes down, but giving away that type of swag really stands out
Hmm.
because people are going to bring home that game and it's going to be on their shelf or whatever, and they're going to see your logo over and over again. It's a great way to prospect. And frankly, it's a heck of a lot easier than writing a book, right?
Yeah, yeah. And another area I think this is important to make a difference is, are you going to be a wellness offering a consumable product, even when you are in the B2C, right? Are you a consumable product, or are you a service-based offer? I feel, in my experience, consumable products, it's kind of like in the easier side. You can get away with having creative. I have seen, for example, here in Austin, there was an activation by LaCroix, the drink. They rented this whole house and then they turned it into a playground. And it was so playful. It had bubbles, it had a DJ, you had like this pool, and it was catered to attract influencers to create content at their stations. That play works very, very well for consumables. However, if you are a service based brand, even when you're a wellness brand, I do feel that you need to be more intentional and do not distract the attention that you have with that lead. That's so, so, so key. In the past, I had done activations that, quite frankly, they were not creating the impact that we wanted. Looking back, it was because the brand that we wanted to activate was a service based brand.
Mm.
And yes, you want to create a good experience. Let's say if you're a spa or plastic surgeon and you want to go there and you want to stand out, be mindful, because yes, you want to stand out, but you also want to have the chance to talk to the women. What I would do is, can you offer an opportunity where women can come for maybe a makeover, maybe a makeup, maybe offer them pictures, maybe offer them an opportunity, even when the thing that you're adding to them on that at that event it's not related with your brand. Partnering with another vendor can help you to enhance that experience for that woman, but make sure that you're going to have the attention to have the conversation, because you actually said something very, very important. I don't think a lot of people know this. I think it's very valuable if we go there. Can we talk about the selling approach? Because very often we between you and I, we know the consultative selling approach.
Yeah.
But I don't think that unless you have taken this formal sales education, I don't think that people quite know this as a second nature, right? So let's talk about that. How would you define briefly a consultative selling approach?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think the best way to succinctly describe consultative selling is picture, uh, you know, when most people think of sales, you're thinking about something very transactional, meaning quick, right? So, you're thinking about buying appliances, maybe even a car, right? Something from a store. You don't really, you have a very limited interaction with the person who sells you that item, right? In many cases, maybe it's even self-serviced, so meaning that you're not dealing with a salesperson at all. Um, a consultative sale is when it is there are more steps to it, and you're going to have to follow up with that individual multiple times because frankly, it's a bigger sale, it's more expensive, and it's more complex. Um, when I say more complex, it could be anything from like, well, they might not buy on the spot, but maybe they'll buy in a couple weeks, but you just have to keep following up with them, right? Or it could be that to as extreme as there's 10 different decision makers in a company that have to sign off and approve on a purchase, and you've got to either get in front of every single one of them to approve, or you've got to equip your champion, meaning your decision maker in the organization you're selling to who likes you the best. You've got to equip that person to sell to them, right? So consultative sales can, really it's anything beyond just a basic transaction.
Mm-hmm. Another item that comes to me as well is, and I have not heard this at all, except for conversations that we had lately, is the importance of being mindful and being conscious. And actually, I have heard recently this word of conscious marketing. In fact, there was a conversation we had with a business owner, and she asked, if I could show examples of conscious marketing being used. And I was like, what do you mean? Because, this word can be anything, right? Like it can be misunderstood. And she said, we never lead with any fear-based marketing
Yeah.
because the people that we want to help, the people that we heal, they should not be exposed to any fear-based emotions.
Yeah.
To me, that was so profound and so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. And let's be honest, like when you are the wellness leader, you probably have worked your way up to develop your consciousness, but not all your staff is going to be where you are, right? So this is the piece where you have to also consider providing official training to your team. A training means like, do you have a brand playbook? Do you have, is your brand playbook extensive and rich enough to cover with your staff? How do you want to be perceived? What is the kind of energy? What is the
Yeah.
level of consciousness that you want people to have when they interact with your brand? Remember, like, it's not you solopreneur.
Yeah. That's a great point, and I actually think that in itself is an episode worth of content,
Yes.
which is the wellness approach of selling versus FUD. And FUD, of course, is an acronym: fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And this
Mm.
is this is something that you're taught in basic sales training to push, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Um, what if you're not going to have enough for retirement? Or, oh, what happens if you leave this medical condition untreated for this long, right? Right, like
Mm.
that's that's how a lot of these processes work. But getting back to the conferences, especially in the wellness sector, if you lead with fear, people are not even going to come by your booth. Because think about why your average conference goer is there in the first place. They genuinely want to walk out of that experience full of enthusiasm. jubilation and excitement for the future, but more importantly, their future,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're not going to go near something that's peddling FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because it's just contra to the experience that they're looking for. It just feels out of place. And it's actually really funny. Let's tell them about a conference blooper that we made one time a couple years ago, where um, you know Jessica's team worked at a dental conference. Did you want to tell them this story?
Yeah. You know, speaking about a way to get humble really, really quickly, that was a conference that we worked at, and then it was going to be for female females in the dentistry industry. And basically, we created these flyers, right? It was like giant posters. And then the question was, are you red pill or blue pill? And from the distance, I could see people coming and then like walking from the distance, and then they will be doing the faces like, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And well, but hold on. So the intent was that it was using um, it was using the storyline of the Matrix, the
Uh-huh.
movie, the Matrix, right? You choose like you're Neo going to right, and Neo's asked by Lawrence Fishburne's character, right? Are you going to choose the red pill or the blue pill, right? Like, do you want to know the truth about existence, or do you want to stay in your cocoon, right? So they were peddling this message at 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 a dental conference, and then tell them what happened.
Well, the best definition for this, like, bro, read the room. Okay,
Yeah,
we were having conversations with the staff, right? Like, the dentist offices, but their staff. If you were the dentist, but the last thing that they wanted to hear about is how are they marketing, or even if they are knowing about SEO or things like that, they were not even aware that that what that was. And at some point during the conference, I we actually took everything down, like took those signs out, and then people would come because what happens, like they needed to be having the card to be punched. So then I kind of knew that, okay, I have to just help them to get enter into the raffle. So I kind of like made their life very easy. I was like, okay, don't worry about this. Like, what do you do? Like, I'm here to have conversations with you. I'm gonna punch you here, and I have a question for you. What do you think that we do?
yeah,
We turned that into a survey experience, primarily because we realized we did not read the room. In fairness, this was before AI. Now with AI, you can truly run an empathy map analysis, and you can actually envision and you can ask AI, hey, reverse map, reverse engineer the conversion process when I'm going to have my team coming to the table. And you can have like an empathy based flow to run that table, to run that conference. So in fairness, we did not have AI. We did not have the knowledge that we have right now,
yeah,
but empathy is so key, and also compassion, because ultimately we are there to have conversations. If I
yeah,
go back to the membership that I was able to enroll in this program for our client, it was
yeah,
not about features or benefits. It was about making that person feel like, wow, they get me.
yeah,
Wow, their story is so relatable. It's exactly what I've been looking for, right? So you have trust, you have relatability, and that would not have happened if we were not approachable
yeah,
as a team at the table, right? So you kind
yeah.
of have to bring that fun and that energy and read the room.
Yeah, and then I think the final point that we'll wrap up on for this episode, to really maximize your use of conferences to as a revenue source, is make sure that you have a professional and measurable way to capture the leads. So um, you know we we see a lot of people now still using sign up sheets. If you can, try to get something electronic. there's so many great apps that you could use on your tablet. There are even devices that have like a QR code, right? That can scan badges. If you're at more of a corporate conference, if you're at more of a B2C conference, maybe that's not an option because it just being able to take the work out of your hands as much as possible enables you to focus on the conversation and forming the relationship with the individual who you're trying to get to know, right? Um, because you want to do business with them versus having to worry about all this stuff, right? So it's tough though too, right? Because a lot of times when I have to sit there and transcribe all this information, you want to balance this with having a good relationship with the prospect, right? By asking them questions, how they're doing, listening to their story. But then, let's say if they're talking a lot, you often have to interrupt them, um, um, you know, reluctantly and say, "Oh, what's your number? Oh, what's your email? Oh," so you want to be polite, not come across as rude, but like at the same time, you do need that information, or else there's not going to be another conversation. And you want to start that 5 to 12 touch points.
That's good. Since you say we need to wrap, I will wrap with one point that I actually was doing this research that shows that 68% of conversions are actually not happening. Like 68% of people say they don't sign up, they don't book an appointment because it's not easy.
Right.
Like that is a lot. So what that means, especially in the context of a conference, you might want to enroll them into a system. However, there's a few things that you have to be mindful on. Number one, definitely be very careful with triggering your CRM with excessive automations. I don't know about you. I hate when that happens. It's like, okay, I get it. Okay, you have my information, you have my capture. But I went to a conference that they were sending so many text messages that people were talking in the hallway, mocking the brand about that. Some of the messages were like, guys, come back to the room. This speaker is talking and you guys are leaving. I'm like, what is this? What is this? Don't abuse SMS. Remember that SMS is kind of like the biggest channel, the channel that has the biggest opening rates. Do not abuse that because you're kind of like losing the leverage and the real estate that you have within the first 48 hours, 72 hours of life of that precious contact that is costing you so much. Like how much you think it costs per lead acquisition is when a company takes a team out to be there, to have conversations, in addition to how much they pay to have the booth, in addition to the time. Like it is pricey.
Yeah.
It is pricey, right?
Yeah.
So educate your team on that.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
tens of thousands. So if you divide, if you get 100 leads and then you spend, $5,000 to have that conference, in addition to the time and the labor that you're spending, that lead is coming very costly.
Yeah.
Very costly. So be sure that your CRM, it's not, it's really not overly automated. It's not annoying. Another issue that I have spotted is that, especially this happens with wellness businesses that they have multiple locations. I get it. You want to simplify your life. And then if you collect a contact, I got this experience where I sign up and all of a sudden, on my inbox, on my text, welcome to this studio, welcome to the other studio, welcome to the other studio. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And quite frankly, they're lucky that the inbox came through because you can just be flagged for spamming, right? So be mindful. Your leads are very expensive. Knowing how much you're spending for leads when you take your business to a conference to do conference marketing, it's key. And I will say it's worth it to have really prepared people to represent your brand because it will make the big difference. Don't you think?
Yeah, without question. And that goes from the very first touch point until the final touch point and treat them, platinum rule, right? Treat them as they want to be treated, right? I think that's right. And then you put all the time investment and energy into acquiring those leads one bad mistake can easily squander that. So make sure that you maintain that currency, right? So we're actually going to do a short mini bonus episode after this coming up. It'll be a short one, but it'll be a nice bonus on a fun topic. So we'll see you in episode 4, right? Next. Thanks so much for joining us.
Awesome sauce. Colin actually said that we should say that. So, awesome sauce.
Awesome sauce.
Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next time.